Well, hello again, and welcome to Void Signal. I'm the maker of this mess, Brian Prime, and this episode is a chat with local Reno artist Henry, who produces art as Messy Endeavor. Henry's interest in art started early, and he utilized his skill as an electrician to produce vibrant, color-filled art, in addition to traditional art pieces. His works are a combination of technology with an infatuation for light, sound, and motion. They're splendid to behold in person. I sat down with Henry in his studio not that long ago for a chat. But before we get to that, I need to remind you once again that Void Signal's intro is courtesy of Processor. You can visit processor2.bandcamp.com or search Processor on the streaming platform of your choice. Were you also aware that Void Signal is 4 years old and still ad-free? Void Signal is powered by people and made for people. So please consider supporting the Void Signal project and independent media by visiting voidsignal.net or patreon.com/voidsignal and slip me some dollars if you had a good time. Thank you as always for your support and your ear time. Okay, our time is at an end. Tune in next time for either an interview with Rabbit Junk or the Wasteland Weekend episode. One of those. Mystery. See you again soon. Stay safe. Stay loud. Welcome to Void Signal. I'm here speaking with Henry Sanchez, that's the name you go by for all your art and stuff, everything, right?
I actually go by Messy Endeavor. I started it as a project about 6 years ago. I named it Messy Endeavor because I didn't know what it was going to be. And I wanted to be able to interpret it any way I want in the future. So Messy Endeavor.
Tell me a little bit about what got you into the style of art that you make.
I had an experience where I was able to physically see music for a couple minutes, and it really stuck with me for the longest time. I wanted to come back to that, and I wanted to come back to that experience and see the colors as vibrantly as I did in that moment, and just be able to come back to the experience whenever I wanted. So a lot of my work involves lights, bright fluorescent colors, and lights that react with music.
Sure. All with the goal of trying to recreate that synesthesia experience that you had. What led you to this medium in particular? Is this the only one that you found could replicate what you're looking for?
The technology medium, yes. I was initially doing blacklight stuff like portraits and sculptures that were either blacklight or glow in the dark, but it doesn't have that same motion that I can get with LEDs or the TV setup.
Yeah. And for people who may not realize, the medium that you use is CRT TVs and neon and stuff. Tell me a little bit about, so you played a song and the TVs did different things at different times. Tell me a little bit about what goes into the back end for making that happen.
It's actually surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
What I try to do is not overcomplicate things. I just have a goal that I want to gear toward,
Sure.
that I want to achieve. And I try to go about it the simplest way I can. So surprisingly, a lot of my visuals are made through CapCut, which is an editing app that you can use on your phone.
How do you go about transferring from the one device to these TVs?
We're lucky enough to live in the future where you can get anything you want and basically create anything I want.
Sure.
The reason I started working with the CRTs is because I wanted to initially do concert style lighting visuals, but then I saw how expensive DMX lights and lasers would be.
Sure.
I already had a small CRT collection just because I felt really bad that they were going to waste. So I just got really creative about using them in that way.
How much time goes into like the programming of the individual components?
There's not a whole lot of programming involved. The hardware basically does it for me. It splits up the video into different sections. So then I can edit a video into what's going to be timed into the different TV.
Gotcha.
And then I can just play it and sit back and watch what I created.
Gotcha. Okay. So it sounds pretty simple.
This is the first thing I made that became really popular, at least online. And that basically propelled me into doing different projects and becoming an official installation artist.
Sure. So the attention garnered by this particular outlet just sort of prompted you to expand and just like really throw yourself at this.
It made me feel like I had something. It made me feel that I had something there that I can work off of. There's a lot of fixtures around the space that I've made previously, and it just didn't really spark the reaction I was looking for. And it made me feel crazy at the time that I was putting so much effort into the things I was creating, and it didn't seem like a lot of people really saw the vision that I intended in my work to have.
What efforts have you made to help bring that vision to people? Because it sounds like you're describing like a first draft or a first iteration of a thing.
Mhm.
But what steps have you taken to sort of hone in on what you're seeking?
I like to see what other people enjoy, especially in concerts. I really love to. What I pay attention to most in concerts is what they do with the lights and how they time them, and the sequences that they do to basically cause that synesthetic experience for the audience. So it's basically just taking a little ideas from that.
Yeah, no, totally. So basically, just to increase your own drive, you just looked at what others were doing, is what it sounds.
I didn't intend for technology to be my medium. I look at the goal that I want to achieve, and then I think about my why, and then the how just comes along in the process.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're an artist trying to capture music in motion in like neon and light, you're not going to grab like a paintbrush. So it makes sense that you would pursue that.
Right. And my attention span is fried. So
Yeah.
I kind of need something with a little more energy than a painting.
Did you have a background in like working with electronics or technology?
What made me comfortable with electronics is working as a residential electrician. And then I basically taught myself the rest of what I needed to know. It's surprisingly accessible, but society, the way things are, you're made to feel like you need to get a 4-year degree into engineering to even attempt the things that I'm doing. But it's actually really accessible if you just really put your mind into it and take the time to push through the frustration of learning what you need to know.
Yeah. How, if I asked you to just sort of gauge where you're at right now in your career, obviously early, what would you say is the next thing you should probably work on when it comes to what you want to create?
What I'm trying to work on now is something that I can make consistently that I can maybe sell as a product, which are my LED light harnesses. They're basically rave outfits that light up and that also pick up music, and the lights switch around as they listen to the music that they're picking up from your phone.
Gotcha.
That is something that I can put out as a product, and that would actually help me fund my life and then put the money back into other projects that I want to experiment with.
Sure.
So yeah, something that I can just consistently make that can be my bread and butter would be really nice to figure out.
Sure. Something tangible that generates an income. Sure. Makes sense. On the subject of marketing and selling art, I know plenty of artists and interview plenty of musicians and stuff. And most of the people doing it are doing it just out of the love of it. Nobody's really making a killing. Given the sort of modern landscape of sort of everybody can make art in some way, what things have you found to be effective for making yourself stand out? And what challenges do you think lie before you as an artist in a modern landscape?
Well, I started off Messy Endeavor basically doing illustrations and painting and trying to go the traditional route. And then AI started rolling out. And in the moment, I was trying to get better at digital drawing, but I figured AI will eventually take away the luster of digital art for me, at least. So I wanted to think of something a little more creative and outside of the box that wouldn't necessarily fit in a gallery. The art I make is more so, I want to make it accessible for the common person to understand. So I don't make my pieces with deeper meaning involved. It's mostly something pretty and fun that people can interact with. And a lot of this stuff looks really good in parties. And that's where people have their emotions ramped up and they can connect with the beautiful lighting environment around them.
Yeah. With that perspective, would you say that your art is maybe better enjoyed in the moment of like, I'm out at a thing or I'm experiencing it in the setting it's supposed to be?
That's exactly right. I decided that I want to be an installation artist because I kind of hate the concept of making pieces to sell. I would rather make something and then have it experience. A lot of interactive art galleries are doing this where people just pay a small fee to enter their interactive galleries and
Hmm.
they are without the the pressure of having to buy anything or being marketed to. And I also love everything I make, so I want to keep it and just
Yeah.
let people borrow it and enjoy it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I get really sentimental about the things I work really hard on.
Yeah. Understandable. A thing that is born from you is like a baby. It's like, oh, this is my baby.
Oh yeah,
Your art is your baby.
and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about where you came from. Like, what was you don't have to give me your childhood or anything, but just like, where did you come from?
From my mother. I'm trying not to get too political and
Okay.
avoid that because that actually does go into where I came from. Actually,
Mhm.
motivates my art in a way.
Sure. Just a quick aside, you can totally get political. It's totally fine.
It's your podcast, so I just don't want to.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah. So earlier this year, I was kind of having a mental breakdown, when who got into office.
Mhm.
And I had a, I felt like I had a decision where I would either leave the country and drop everything, or I can just double down on what I'm doing because the future is pretty uncertain anyway. And for my demographic,
Sure.
things are very things are a little tense. So
Mhm.
the pieces I work on are in a big part an escape from society, let's say.
Sure.
By me being a successful artist, I'm not another gear in the system that perpetuates the things that I don't like.
Yeah. No, that's fair and admirable. I do take your meaning because, like, we live in grim times, and yeah, the world is getting crazier by the day. Was there something in your youth that you feel like was a catalyst for where you've landed now?
I was this type of kid that would take things apart just to try to understand what was going on in them, like alarm clocks and electronics and stuff.
Mhm.
It would always frustrate me that it would get me nowhere. Like had no context for what I was looking at. Once I learned a little bit of electrical, that got me curious about how much more I can understand. I love being able to understand things around me and how they work, at least at a very basic level.
Gotcha. And just sort of reflecting back on like young Henry, who's like dismantling shit and seeing how things work versus where you are now. How do you feel looking back on that younger version of yourself now as the person that you are?
Sometimes I get a little upset about it. I just wish I had the support to pursue my interests a little further. I'm Latino, by the way, and
Mhm.
I come from an immigrant household. So it's very strict about the path that you're supposed to take when you're growing up. Whereas a college educated household would kind of see this drive and encourage it and put you in programs that would teach you something in the path you wanted to take. For me, I feel like I would have gotten a little further along if I had a little more support.
Sure.
And this goes into other aspects of my interests. I like doing a lot of things. I picked up guitar
Mm.
around middle school, and I was also really good as I've always had a weird talent for drawing. So I wish that I didn't have to figure everything out myself. I kind of wish I had a little bit more support, mainly from my family, but I wish there was also programs available for people like me in
Sure.
school.
Based on what you're saying, it sounds like you were sort of maybe not just societally, but maybe culturally sort of pushed in a particular direction. Would you agree with that?
I come from a construction background.
Mhm.
That's why I ended up in construction as a fallback.
Yeah.
I could have gone to college, but unfortunately, I didn't really figure out what I like to do soon enough.
Yeah.
And that's another aspect where you kind of you're really forced to figure yourself out right away. If you miss that window, it's a little too late for you.
Yeah. My first time going to college was in my 20s, and I didn't know who I was or what I wanted or what I liked.
Right.
But going back later and pursuing what you want, and pursuing a career in the arts, no less, a degree in the arts, it feels like burning money at times
Mm.
of like, I'm never going to do anything with this, but it's a thing you love. So I guess you do it. But What steps do you think you will take personally to try and push your art to the next level?
Well, seeing what opportunities there are around me to get a little bit of attention. Something I wasn't expecting is to get moderately popular online through TikTok. Back when I was just posting videos of the projects I was doing, in order to be able to pull up really easily when I talk about them to people, I was never expecting a video to get 2 million views from a really badly shot video of the TV setup, to be
Yeah.
honest. So I have two aspects of my art. One of them is online and the other one is in person. I'm trying to keep up with both of them, where I never wanted to be an influencer or an online person, but I figure since that's a window or an avenue I can take, I've been working on that. And then also I've been getting to know people locally through the art galleries here and trying to see what opportunities I can either help with or I can provide my own ideas to.
Gotcha. How successful has that been?
I'm surprised by how much I've done this summer. Yeah, it's been a lot. I have objectively been pretty successful for the amount of time I've been doing this seriously. But as far as monetarily, I'm still trying to figure that out
Sure.
to make this, because I do have to make this sustainable. There's just not a lot of time when you work a full-time job. Like for me, I had about 3 good hours of energy that I could put into my projects after work on a good week. And there's just so much that goes wrong. There's just not the time. There's never enough time.
Yeah, there's never enough time. I hear you there because also working 40 hours a week. And when I get home, like my creative juices are near their limit. So like it's hard to sit down. Aside from your art, what does your future hold for you? What else do you want to pursue besides this?
I mean, obviously, I want to make sure my relationship with my wife is solid. That's what I care about the most. Everybody wants to travel
Sure.
and be a little more worldly, like be a little more aware of the world that they're inhabiting. But this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. My generation is not going to retire. I figured I'm going to put in the energy now to make a sustainable career with what I actually enjoy doing. And then I'm going to do it until I die. But my goal eventually is to make Messy Endeavor basically a group of like-minded people where I have a solid recognizable brand that I can use to lift people up who I see that have potential and a creative drive that need a little more resources and attention to what they're doing. Basically, I want to be, basically, I'm thinking about my younger self. I want to be like the big brother, what we were getting on earlier.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent answer. Just for me personally, like I always tell people, and this is true, void signal to a certain extent is made for the younger version of myself. Of like, I was up late by myself and listening to the radio, and I would have loved to listen to something like my podcast when I was younger, just to hear adults have a conversation and say things that are insightful or interesting or learn about people. So yeah, I can understand your motivation there. My younger self would have loved this. Okay. What is the next big milestone that you have on your horizon? Is there something coming up that you're excited about that you are working towards?
I obviously want to get my stuff used by more people. So I'm trying to find projects that I can get funded by the city and do public works. Like we have a lot of cool Burning Man art downtown. So it's more along those lines of building things that are more structurally stable, that can be put outside and that can grab a lot of attention from people out publicly.
Did you make it out to the Western Lights Festival?
So yeah, so events like that. Around that time, I'm working towards a different event out in Carson, just only because I don't have the Western Lights Festival is held outside in the wintertime. And I haven't been too confident on making something that will hold up depending on the weather that's going to happen at the time. So during the same time, I'm gearing towards doing something out in Carson that's indoors. That's basically going to be a neon golf course.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I love doing big projects like that. Something that I finished last month was an interactive art gallery exhibit. It's a spaceship control room. at the Potentialist Studio. It's a really cool art gallery for kids, and it's really cool to see them just run around and play with everything.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that experience of you make these things, you put these things together, these installations that produce sound and light and entertainment, visual stimulus. How do you feel watching people interact with it or see it for the first time?
I try to detach my feelings from it because I try not to like look over and see the well, something I'm trying to get better at is like try not to be affected by the reactions of other people because some people can enjoy it and then not show any expression. And I don't really expect everyone to be blown away by what I'm making. But there's some people that really connect with it, like engineering types kind of understand what I'm doing and how I put things together. So they're a little more impressed by the stuff that I'm building.
I do have to say that your art is something that spoke to me, something about CRT TVs. And I had a light bright as a kid and like, glow in the dark stuff. So everything that you make and have been making is like very up my alley. Sitting here now, like looking around your space and everything, these harnesses are dazzling and just absolutely brilliant. Tell me about how long it took you to put these. You have three here so far. How long did it take you to put these together?
The research and development, let's see, how did those come along? Something that I'm interested in visually is shibari. There's just something about the like female bodies, like I'm,
Sure.
and how the ropes gets like tied around like symmetrically and look really decorative. So that guided me towards basically doing that with lights, which I have a piece in here that is basically that. And then that led me towards making the harnesses because I wanted to make something that can be pulled off and actually be worn by people. I wouldn't say I completely figured it out yet because it's a completely new concept that I haven't seen anybody else really perfect. So it did take me a really long time to come up with the material. Luckily, I was able to find material that I can put together to make them.
Mhm.
But I always run into issues that I'm sorting out when it comes to structure because people are going to be, I'm expecting people to dance around with them and maybe wires get caught somewhere.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to mitigate. And that's the hardest part to the designs that I'm making.
How many hours would you say that it took you?
Too many to even, I don't even want to think about how many hours
Fair
these
enough.
things take.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a thing that's wearable, like having to think about like making it resilient.
I made my first batch. I made about 4 of them.
Mhm.
Those pieces took me about 15 hours each, and
Mhm.
they all broke.
Oh,
Luckily, it did teach me about what I could. I was able to see the weak points in them that I was able to solidify and fix that design.
yeah,
So it's always an ongoing process of trying to find the best material and methods, and also learning new techniques to make your work a little more sturdy.
yeah. And I know you said earlier that a lot of your inspiration comes from just kind of looking around at what others are doing, especially in live venues and things like that for lighting. Have there been other sources of inspiration, maybe outside of that, that have spoken to you or given you an idea?
I keep finding these YouTube videos. If you just look around, if you just spend some time going through our videos, you eventually find something that maybe has like 100 views and it's just like the most creative and beautiful thing you've ever seen. So a lot of the stuff I make is iterative of that.
Mhm.
Another thing is hoist spinning or glow stick spinning, which you see people do a lot at raves or Burning Man.
Yeah.
If you see long exposure photography from that, you can see some really beautiful patterns that the human body can make
Mhm.
waving these lights around. And the geometric patterns inspire the big pictures that I make. And aside from that, photography, a good photographer knows how to take something mundane and then present it in a way where it looks. Sorry, I'm losing the
No, it's okay. I take your meaning.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like a good photographer can make the mundane seem spectacular or
Exactly,
extraordinary. Yeah.
exactly. I listened to your podcast with Cornelius
Oh yeah.
Lewis, and he definitely has his personality is a little more of a people person than I am.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very eccentric in my mind, but I have a hard time expressing that
Mhm.
in person, like to other people.
Sure. I feel like that's a thing that takes practice. And thank you for listening. First off, Cornelius is Corey. I love that guy. I would love for you to meet him because he also makes art and makes robots.
His
and,
robots.
land
I
and
got a
stuff.
robot right there.
He would be about it. And at the Western Lights Festival, he was helping run Shot the Robot. I was driving around and stuff. But I feel like being able to talk about the things that you're excited about or the things that love or interest you, I feel like that's a thing that takes practice. You can't just sit down and be put on the spot and, oh, let me tell you about this thing I love and why. I feel like it takes a little bit of thought and consideration.
Right. That's been my challenge, especially with the online aspect of what I'm doing, is because I spend so much time secluded away from society, just like tinkering with my little devices. And then something got popular and I want to pursue whatever opportunities that leads to. But it's the challenge is like, oh, now I have to build up my skills to be that kind of person.
Yeah. Because not only do you have to not only is there the requirement of like, oh, I need to know what to do, but the like, oh, I have to overcome a portion of myself to be able to do it. Because at least for me, I was always a shy wallflower person. Like, don't perceive me. I don't want to talk kind of a thing. But, it is, I have found it to be worth it to overcome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I also couldn't help but notice some of the art you have hanging on your walls throughout your home. Is there anyone in particular, any artist that you feel speaks to you or has really inspired you?
Yeah, there's this manga artist. His name is Shintaro Keigo. His work is really bizarre. There's something about repeating patterns for me that really give me the brain tickles. His stuff plays on repetitive patterns, tapestries, geometric patterns, but a lot of his stuff involves the human body and distorts it in a way that can be really gory or beautiful. And it seems like he really has a lot of fun with his work and does some really neat drawings that are very unconventional to what a gallery would hold up as being like high art.
Kind of challenges the standard. Gotcha. Would you say that is your goal as well?
To challenge the standard?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mainly I want to make my stuff accessible. Like I actually hate, maybe not hate, but I dislike going to museums and I see very like plain, let's say black and white, like photography or just abstract art that you don't really understand with a little note card up their description, but nobody's really around to describe what the significance of the piece is. I like being able to make stuff that is just something that you can understand right away and just mainly for the purpose of fun and taking you out of your serious mundane life for a little bit.
Yeah. I like that. I can admire you for that. Just making a thing that's fun and entertaining just to be a fun, entertaining thing. If we get some feels or some thoughts from it, that's a bonus, right? Like
Right. And I guess you can't see it in the audio. The way I set up my studio, I like to make it very cozy and have all my art around me because that motivates me to keep going with it if I see the pieces I've already made. But also the way your brain works is that when you enter a room, your brain is a simulation machine. So you enter a room and it simulates. The room is basically the world for you. And I find that if you're in a space that is very creatively inspiring or beautiful, whatever theme the room is, your brain is going to latch onto the frequency of the basically the vibe of the room you're in.
Sure. That said, your studio space is quite cozy. I do like what you've got going on here.
Yeah, a lot of people in their studios have a lot of clutter or they don't have anything fun around because they don't want to be distracted by anything and get straight to work. Yeah. But I basically want the space to be a playground for me.
Yeah, yeah. I can appreciate that. My own home studio for recording and doing stuff is like, I try to make it look like a nightclub, like it's neon lights and weird lighting that changes on its own or does whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, being here is like kind of being in my own space a little bit, hanging out in the dark with music and cool lights on. And that sounds fun. That makes me creative, at least.
Right. It takes the pressure off because if you see a cluttered space with a lot of, let's say, paintings that you need to get done, there's a lot of tension there. And I want to relieve the tension for myself in the space that I work in.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I will hit you with the last question, which is just what is something you've been enjoying recently? And your answer can be anything: book, movie, TV show, something you've just realized about yourself lately, but what's something you're jazzed about?
I knew this was coming up. I was trying really hard to plan something out. But what comes into my mind recently is religion.
Really?
Not like the history of religion and how that impacts society. Not so much, but just the way people feel, like examining how people feel about it and how historically that shaped or motivated people to do certain things. And
Yeah.
also the aesthetics of religion, which is also where my fixation of geometric patterns come from, and the beauty like of old medieval Catholic art, Renaissance religious paintings,
Yeah.
just the whole lore behind that. And yeah, the mysticism, I that's what I really like to
Yeah.
explore.
That's a good answer. I'm interested in that stuff as well. One of my core humanities classes was about the evolution of heaven and hell, concepts of good and evil, and sort of where our morality sprang from,
Right.
and how religion has borrowed from this and that and shaped this thing and shaped that thing. Plus, at least for me, like I always liked, I grew up in like the deep South, not religious myself, but around a lot of it.
Mm.
I've always found religious artwork to be so grim and morbid in a way.
But that's what I enjoy about it now.
There's a scary element to it
Mhm.
because I've been told this is a scary thing my whole life.
Exactly. There's something that's triggered in your brain. For me, it's with Christian art, just because our culture is mainly around Christian theology. I find that Renaissance Catholic paintings and work like that, it's a fast way of triggering a deep emotional response in myself and other people. That's a feeling that I really want to explore and do something with it in my art pieces in the future.
The religious aspect
Either one,
or both.
and maybe with both.
Yeah, yeah.
As pretty as my work is, a lot of the TV sequences I do with the music, I want to invoke an emotion in people. So sadness, happiness, like you want to energy,
Mhm.
like let's say you want to dance to the music. But I'm trying to come up with a way where I can make a different kind of piece that invokes some sort of deep emotion in people.
Mhm.
And that's my goal for the future.
Yeah. Good goal to have. I feel like that's a goal that a lot of artists or creative people probably share with you is that, like, oh, I want to make something that touches someone or moves someone in an interesting way. Yeah, good answer. That's definitely been my goal with making a dumb little podcast, but so far so good. I always answer the question myself. The thing I've been enjoying recently, changing my mind, having someone in my life that I trust and being able to hear their viewpoint and hear their perspective and be self-aware enough to go, they're absolutely right. I need to change my ways or change my whatever. And just realizing the error of your ways with the assistance of someone else and being like, okay, I heard loud and clear. I'm course correcting because it feels good afterward to move on from that point and feel like you've grown and feel like you've become a little bit better of a version of yourself. I feel like.
Mm.
So I've been enjoying that a lot.
I wouldn't say it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it's not the most fun thing to do. I don't like being wrong, but
I can say the same about my fixation with religion, because I grew up religious and steered away from that. And I
Mm,
like the way it makes me uncomfortable. Like it
mhm.
challenges. I'm an atheist. I'll be an atheist for the rest of my life.
Yeah, same.
But I like looking into it because it challenges the way I perceive the world.
Yeah,
It challenges my core beliefs. And there's something that I really enjoy about that.
yeah. For me, I think there's an element of sort of a horror aspect to it a little bit. Like there's a part of me, like teenage Brian is still in here very much. And like I watch something like The Witch or Hereditary
Mm.
or religious horror of some kind, or listen to Behemoth, as blasphemous as it gets, as they say, when it comes to metal and things. But things like that, that imagery, it evokes like a fear response a little
Mhm.
bit because I grew up being taught about hell, as most of us are, of like, there's an eternal place you're going to go to. Police in the sky are going to convict you of whatever, and you're going to go there and suffer and whatever. That's a scary thing for a 10-year-old to grapple with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was right there with you.
So spend a lot of time thinking about that. And, it comes back to like the artwork associated with it. I just also have to point out like little religious pamphlets,
Hmm.
like have crazy fucking art in them. People being ripped into the earth and pulled, by
Oh,
demons
yeah. And then
and
you
crazy
read,
shit.
we got one recently from a door to door person.
Mhm.
We read the verses that they wanted to present to us, and it's insane. Like I can't remember exactly what scene in the Bible, but it was one part where God genocided like a whole group of people, and then it says, "Oh, God loves you if you
Yeah.
if you believe in Him, and those who don't, well."
Yeah. And I mean, that's the duality that I grew up with of like, there's this God that knows everything and knows your thoughts. And this is a God with one hand drenched in blood and one in whatever else you want to say. It was always such a scary duality. But yeah, I agree. Religious horror is affects me deeply for that reason of just growing up with it and feeling like it's because it almost feels like an urban legend that everybody's into, everybody's heard of, everybody knows about. And that's how it feels at times of like
Right.
everybody's afraid of this thing that
Along
may or may not exist.
That's definitely something that interests me, but something I've been thinking about a lot is the actual story of Jesus Christ, whether he was a real person that actually, where those events actually happen is different from the way that people connect with that story to an extent that it's lasted several hundred years and people go to war because of that story. And whether people believe in the character or not, that strong emotion is what I really want my art or to say a story that connects to somebody in such a deep level where it just lasts.
Yeah,
And a lot of musicians are able to do it with their music, and that's just so iconic in the last centuries, and it just really touches people at a very primal way.
sure. And I mean, I think the advantage of music too is that you can write a lyric or write a whatever to, or say the words necessary to have a little bit more precision.
Mhm.
In your case, working in your medium, how do you take TTVs and make them express love or joy or sorrow or what have you? What efforts have you made and what experiments have you made to try and do such a thing? If
Mhm.
you have.
Well, first I have to find the right music.
Sure.
So it starts with a love song. I made a sequence that was around cigarettes after sex,
Mhm.
the band,
Mhm.
and the montage I put together and put on the screens is a couple that's glitched. You can't see their faces because the video is glitched out, but you can see their silhouettes. And it's just a couple like falling in love and doing love things like walking through a meadow, but
Mhm.
it's like really glitched.
Nice.
So you can put yourself into the character.
Right.
And in a way, it's I make my work the same way. Well, I make my sequences the same way that movies are structured, where I want it's a different experience with the movies because I can have different things playing at the same time on different screens, but
Mhm.
that tie into a central story that you're able to put yourself in and connect to it. And then there's another interesting thing is a song that I put together with news, like recent news clips going back to the political chaos that's going on right now.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of feeling where I want to invoke a stress response because seeing all these news segments going on at the same time on 8 different TVs,
Mhm.
but they're all synced up to music in some kind of way.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Okay. That is it.
All right, we did
Thank you
it.
so much. Thank you so much for your time and for allowing me to come into your studio and see the things that you made. I certainly want you to continue pursuing your art and making stuff because I get to enjoy it as well. You definitely have a unique vision, and I'm excited to see what you end up making in the future.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, goodbye, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Void Signal intro and outro music courtesy of Processor. Visit processor2.bandcamp.com for more Processor, and visit voidsignal.net to help support the creation of more Void Signal. Thank you.